Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTGO Traders. My name is Taryn, and today with me, I have a very, very special guest. This is Trick Jarrett. Trick, how you doing today, man?
I'm great, Taryn. How are you?
I'm doing very, very good. So I've been doing a bunch of different MTG content creators on the channel like the past couple weeks, but I haven't got anyone actually from Wizards of the Coast itself, and I'm actually happy to get you specifically because you're on a lot of the social media, and of course on Twitter the most, I would say, for Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rosewater probably is on Twitter more than me, but
Oh, yeah.
I'm definitely up there. And yeah, when you reached out, I said, absolutely, I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to chat and talk to you and the folks at MTGO Traders and everything like that.
That's awesome, and I appreciate that so much. So as with all the questions here, I'm going to kind of tilt it a little bit differently because we normally talk about YouTube and stuff like that and MTG as content in general. But for the first questions, we want to kind of keep the same. So for the first question here, how did you get into Magic: The Gathering before the job, of course?
Yeah. Truthfully, it's the archetypal story. I started playing because a friend in middle school was playing, and so they got me into it. I remember he played a black-white vampires deck with Singular Vampire back in 4th edition and revised, and that's what really got me into it. I played at a local used bookstore. That was our local hangout that I was able to play at, and I've played mostly, like I had one large break, but otherwise I've played nonstop since 4th edition and Ice Age.
That's awesome. So what was your little small break?
I stopped during Urza's block. When
wow. Okay.
It was mostly an age thing. Like my friends who played had moved away. The store that I played at closed down, and so I stopped in Urza's block, which would have been the very end of middle school or start of high school, something like that. And then I was in college when I got back into it, and I've played nonstop since then. And that was around Mirrodin and the Kamigawa block.
Right. See, for me, I kind of got into Magic really big during the Kamigawa, and everyone I've ever talked to has been like, that's when I got out for a little bit. And I was like, oh, come on. I really liked Kamigawa. So
yeah, no, Kamigawa has a special place in my heart. I think it's a fun setting. It was in a tough spot in terms of Magic's history, following Mirrodin and leading into Ravnica. So it's just a really tough spot in terms of comparisons. And there were other problems with it, obviously, but I think that I love Kamigawa, absolutely.
Yeah. What would you consider, I guess, as your favorite set overall? Like, just if you could pick one.
It's tough. I have been at Wizards since Dark Ascension, so Innistrad holds a special place in my heart as being the last set before I joined Wizards and being such a phenomenal set for the history of Magic and as a format. Kamigawa Block Champions holds a special place. Also, Lorwyn Morningtide, because that's the draft format that I used to think that I was the best at. I loved that draft format.
Nice.
But yeah, so one of those. It's hard for me to pick a single set.
I understand. Yeah, I mean, that's, I guess for me would be probably Innistrad, something around that line. I really do like New Phyrexia and like Mirrodin Besiege, that kind of thing. But yeah, I got really into Magic around like the Innistrad block, just really enjoying it as far as like from a flavor perspective and from like the mechanics perspective and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
Favorite, I guess, archetype or favorite way to play Magic for me, a lot of people don't like this, but it is Mill. I love Mill, so that's one of my favorite ways to play.
I can respect that. Mill's a strategy that is nostalgic for me. It was so much more powerful back in the early days, and now it relies on more combo rather than just control Mill.
Right.
But no, totally, I get that. For me, I think it's not a surprise. I have a brand to uphold, which is Red Goblins. I like the aggro. I like the making an army of guys and attacking with them.
That sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. I love an aggro deck. I want to get my hands on it for sure. I think right now for me, Standard is just brimming with a bunch of really decent and a lot of different colored aggro decks, and I think that's awesome. Favorite, I guess, format so far? For me, I think it's Standard, but for you?
For me, it's pretty much Commander. I mean, I do a lot of drafting Commander. Brawl has really picked up for me, obviously, but for me, especially with folks here at Wizards, Commanders, that opportunity to hang out with friends, is that chance to sit around and play Magic into the wee hours of the night. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I like Commander a lot. I think Brawl is basically like it's like a beginner's, like kind of a beginner's toe into Commander. You know, it's like the card pool isn't as large, so it's a little bit easier to build a deck around. Somebody that just come in with like draft chaff can basically build a brawl deck almost.
Yeah.
It's such a great way to get into that, and then kind of say, well, I like brawl, let's get into Commander too. I think that's awesome.
I think that Brawl also does. I mean, I completely agree with you, but also one of the things that I think people are discovering, and I was having this conversation with over the weekend with somebody, was Brawl is also a great just a step into Standard. You know, player comes to their first pre-release or gets their first bundle, whatever it is. And for me, the reason that I've enjoyed Brawl is that it lets me scratch the itch of Commander for deck building.
Right.
But where I feel I'm much more of a casual Commander player. I'm not. I mean, yes, I want to win, but I'm not out to kill my opponent in the fourth turn.
Right.
Brawl,
Yeah. Right.
So I feel I have that license, and I don't feel the same social contract as I do with Commander.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it for sure. So a lot of people know you for the social media, the live streams on Facebook, that kind of stuff, and your involvement with Wizards of the Coast, and just your general optimism overall. But how did you get the job in the first place at Wizards?
Sure. So my story is long and has many turns. The short version of it is that I started doing Magic content as a fan. I did a podcast in Orlando.
Nice.
I teamed up with a guy who was local to Orlando named Lee Stett, who was an on-again, off-again pro. Because I was just eager to make content, and I thought video podcast was an interesting and fun way to do it. So I started doing this podcast back in the day called Mana Nation. Then I merged with GatheringMagic.com, and I was running GatheringMagic.com as a website.
Right.
And then I was actually at Pro Tour Innistrad, going back to what I mentioned with Innistrad, and Wizards put up the job listing to be the content manager for Daily MTG. And so I felt like this was the universe telling me there wasn't a better job for me in the world. And it's funny looking back, because at that Pro Tour, I basically went to every single Wizards employee and said, convince me that I don't want to come work at Wizards. And none of them would, obviously. And so, I applied for that job in like September, got hired in November, and had basically 3 weeks to move from Orlando to Seattle.
Goodness.
So we had to wrap up my job and all the other stuff. I went to Worlds in San Francisco as my last trip with Gathering Magic.
Right.
And then I drove from Orlando to Seattle with myself, my wife, and 2 dogs in our Honda Element in 4.5 days.
Whew. That is a trek. Wow.
Journey to get to Wizards, yeah.
That's awesome. So a little backstory on me. I lived in Florida for a little while. I have family that lives in Mount Dora, just outside of Orlando. And I lived in Sebring, which is just a little bit south of Orlando. Yeah. But man, Orlando has a real special place in my heart, especially because my fiance too also has family in Pensacola, so we have family all over Florida.
Sure.
Kind of spotting that. But that's awesome. Moving on to another question though, for that, since you did live in Orlando, this is kind of something that people may not know about you, but you actually worked at the theme parks down there.
I mean, it's only notable to the people who don't live in Orlando. That's the equivalent of delivering pizza or delivering papers or whatever the modern day comparison is. In Orlando, every teenager who has a car and lives within driving distance gets the job at the theme parks. It's easy money. It's an easy comparative job. But yeah, I started working at the theme parks. Initially just as a ride attendant, one of those people who would check your belts and all of that. And then humorously enough, they opened up a job as a character, the people in the costumes. And normally when you're a character in the park, you're under like 5'6" or 5'8". That's right. But this was a notable call because they wanted people who were 6'2" and taller.
Wow. And
they were hiring to have people do Shrek and have people do the Hulk. So I worked as Shrek at Universal for a year and a half.
Right.
And yeah, the theme parks were a great, they're a great job for young people. And
for sure.
But yeah, I also love Orlando. Has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just can't imagine you with like a giant costume on, like greeting people. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting job. It's your entire worldview is changed down to this small sliver. And so you get used to like not seeing directly in front of you, and you get used to the sort of physical space, and it's hot. But you end up like working a 15-minute shift on set, and then you have 45 minutes backstage to cool down and relax before the next time you're due to go out. So
Right, right.
it was an easy job comparatively, as long as you could endure those 15
The
minutes
heat,
in the hot.
right? Oh, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. I know my fiance and I went to Disney in Florida this February, and it was like they had like those shows like almost every like 30 minutes, like on
Yeah.
clockwork. And I was like, how are those guys not just like overheating? You know, I'm assuming they have multiple people in different suits coming in and out. But man, that seemed like a massive amount of work. Even though it is kind of simple, but it seemed like a ton of work. One aspect about your job you really enjoy, is it preview season? Is it Pro Tour? Is it the day-to-day fans, or what?
It's so much. I mean, a lot of it is the fans. A lot of it
Sure.
is, I came to this job because I love this game, and now I get to be a representative and an interface with fans out there who love this game. I do a lot of work with content creators, so
Yeah.
it's a special thing for me to, get to talk to you, to help assist and work with other content creators, whether it's facilitating interviews or getting them, assets, getting questions answered, all
Right.
of that sort of stuff. And then also, I do a lot of work on projects. So I get to work with content creators or get to do a lot of video projects. I was just down in Los Angeles filming the next season of Spellslingers with Geek and Sundry,
Nice.
and being on,
Yes.
and that was super fun. That's one of the best parts of the job, is getting to do those
Right.
sorts of awesome projects to either, get people excited about a set, get people excited about Magic, introduce people to Magic,
Right.
that sort of stuff.
That's awesome. Dude, Spellslingers is one of my favorite series that's been going around recently. And I'm so glad it's getting a new season coming out.
Me too. It's been 3 years since the last time we did it, and I'm excited that we're bringing it back. And yeah, it's gonna be fun. It was a fun season, fun couple of days of shooting.
For sure, for sure. So, WotC working there might be is a great place. Not might be. It is a great place. But there is kind of a lot of loud, sometimes angry voices out there in the community. How do you handle sometimes that negativity?
That's a good question. The bottom line, and the thing I think maybe Mark said it, or I don't remember where I read it, was that they're angry because they care, and they're not angry at me as an individual.
Right.
So part of this job and part of being in this role is being able to hear that anger directed at me and realize that it's a passionate person who cares about a thing, and hear it as whether it's actual feedback that's, whether it's actual feedback that can be passed along and acted
Sure.
upon, or if it's just, in a lot of cases, fans want to be heard. They want to be
Sure.
acknowledged. And they want Magic as a game is so amazing because it gives us this ability to put ourselves into the game, to see ourselves in a deck, or see ourselves in an archetype, or see ourselves
Right.
in a guild, whatever it is. There's this personal identity that other games have too, but Magic is especially strong with. And so players care a great deal, and that's one of the amazing things of working at Wizards, is being part of the group that stewards this game, that makes the decisions, that creates the new things, and makes decisions that are positive or negatively received. And
Right.
nothing that's positive is universally positive, and nothing
Oh,
that's
for
negative
sure.
is universally negative.
Right.
So it's building up all of these skills and building up the thick skin that lets you work through the things that aren't aimed at you, and also take what is useful out of that negative feedback. Is it okay? They're angry about a thing. Now you may be cursing at me about something else tangentially related, but if I can deduce that you're actually upset about this part of it, then that's a thing that we can actually take as feedback and include in part of our evaluations. And really just view that negativity as part of the conversation.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? I feel like I sort of wandered around.
No, that makes sense. I feel like a lot of people, and me included, because I'm totally guilty of this as well. Have a there's some thunder going on right now. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but for me, for sure, whenever like there's news coming out with WotC or whatever, it's always like people immediately split into camps sometimes, and it can just be like a knee jerk reaction too, like not even processing the information, like they're just immediately negative. And then like for me, I'm sometimes that way too, and it takes me a few days to come around and be like, actually, this is a really good idea. And I feel like it should be implemented further. But like a lot, I feel like right now, a lot of people are finally coming around to like liking Brawl, because for a while I was making some Brawl deck techs on the channel, and people would comment and be like, "Oh, I don't like Brawl at all," but like now they're like, Brawl is actually a very interesting format and super open and really like welcoming to new players, and I mean I think it's awesome, you know, like it's just I feel like sometimes it just takes a little bit of people like just kind of ruminating on a topic before they come around to it, and I think that knee-jerk reaction is something that a lot of like MTG players do suffer from for sure.
Yeah, I think that, you know, in all walks of life, not just in
Sure.
Magic, change is scary. And so people, when a thing is changed or a thing is introduced, there's a lot of, despite how much we try to communicate around things,
Right.
sometimes there are things we can't say for fear of giving away, you know, story plot lines or giving
Right.
away surprises. And so there's a lot of things that go unsaid, and so players are eager to fill in the gaps. Magic is a game that, you know, rewards players for filling in missing information. What does my opponent have in hand? What are they going to do in terms of reacting to my spell or my decision? And that's a thing that Magic players really take on. And so every decision, everything that we do, they immediately have that knee-jerk reaction of, what does this mean? How does this
Right.
affect me? And as a natural part of being a human, the question is, how does this hurt me?
Right.
And that's, you know, when we introduced Brawl, there was a lot of fear about us trying to unseat Commander, or, you know,
Right.
it's this whole other thing that Wizards is doing. And you know, as you said, players then start to get comfortable with the thing. They see their friends playing it, or they see the
Right.
content that people are making about it, and they start going, "Oh, okay, this is interesting." And oh, look, there's Commander content alongside of it. It's not replacing it for people.
Right.
As I said, it fills a different role for me. So hopefully that's also what comes through for players. But yeah, that knee-jerk reaction is natural. It's just part of the process.
Yeah, I can totally see that for sure. Last question, because I don't want to keep you too much longer. We all love MTG, but what is something else that you love as well? Is it video games, TV show, movies, anything like that?
Well, I love all of those things, but I think the thing that would be most obvious to anyone who follows me on social media is soccer. I'm a
Soccer,
huge
okay.
soccer fan. Seattle's has two teams. We have the Seattle Sounders, which are the men's team in Major League Soccer, and then we have the Seattle Reign, which is the women's team in the NWSL. But I probably, at the peak when all of the leagues are going at once, like Europe, most of the European leagues just wrapped up or are wrapping up. During the peak, I'll watch upwards of 10 to 20 hours of soccer a week.
Wow, that is a ton of soccer. Holy
Yep.
cow. I was like that really hardcore for a while with like football and things like that in high school for a little bit, and then
Yeah.
kind of like distance myself, because like once I got into college, everyone was like a little too excited about it, and I was like, all right, it's time to get into something else. But yeah, that's crazy. That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for sticking around. I appreciate the interview for sure. I'm gonna do a quick kind of wrap up here. Like the video, guys, if you like it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And where can everyone find you online, Trick Jared?
You can follow me on Twitter at TrickMTG. You can follow my non-Magic Twitter, Trick Jarrett. And you can find me on various Wizards projects or videos.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.